And I am really excited to introduce our speaker today. I'm Rachel O'Mara, and I'm in San Francisco Google, and we're here today with author Holly Payne. Holly Payne is a very special person to me, too, because she's also my writing coach. So I work with her quite closely. I'm really excited to have her here today to talk about technology of the heart and her latest book, her fourth book, Damascena. So a little bit about Holly before we get started. So the book itself is a story that demonstrates the power of the ancient practices that first identified the technology of the heart, and hence that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to explore the fascinating information centers in the heart and how they can be utilized to optimize communication and even create magic in the workplace and beyond, no matter where you work. So Holly is an international published author, writing coach, and founder of Skywriter Books, an award-winning independent press. As I said, she's written 4 novels. Her latest book is Damascena, The Tale of Roses and Rumi. It's a mystical thriller about the wisdom of the heart. She has served on the faculty of the Academy of Art University, California College of the Arts, and Stanford. So please welcome Holly Payne.
Yay. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here today at Google and for having me. I was really excited to be in front of a different audience as a storyteller. I'm usually talking to readers at bookstores or in book clubs and talking about the writing process. So I'm very excited that this audience actually inspired me to really think outside the box and think of how technology has affected me as a storyteller, essentially as Google has affected me as a storyteller. Google has been the go-to. I couldn't have done this presentation without Google. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do something I've never done before. So this is a work in progress, and definitely open to feedback afterward in terms of the experiment of what I'm about to present today. I was thinking a lot about, on the ride over here today, just having a moment to really introduce to you why technology of the heart, why this subject matter, especially with a novelist. And I'm literally standing in front of you because of a particular affinity for technology inside my body. I have a foot-long titanium plate in my femur and 10 titanium screws. And they've been in my body for 20 years. And so I literally am mobilized because of technology. And when it comes to the technology of the heart, one of the ways that I write, and actually one of the ways that I can't write, is if I have an idea that's going to come to me as a storyteller and it's coming to my brain first, I always have to ask questions and know that that's probably not the best place for it to come from. I was asked the other day, where does the writing process start for you? And I said it starts when there's an anvil that kind of drops onto my heart. And I actually have to write my way out from underneath that weight. And so that is the beginning of this introduction to technology of the heart, that my heart is literally the guide to my career. And without it, I question everything. So I'm going to tell you a little bit. We're going to do a little time traveling today. I'm going to read a few short excerpts from Damascena, and I want to bring it kind of full circle into the technology of the heart. And I'm going to ask you right now to go with me to Konya, Turkey. How many people here have actually been to Turkey? A few. Wow. Of course, a Google audience, international audience. When I was, many years ago, I was doing research for my first novel, The Virgin's Knot, and I ended up in Konya, Turkey, doing research with a rug merchant and his family. And I ended up here at the Whirling Dervish Lodge at the Teki, which is the monastery in Konya, Turkey. And I ended up at Rumi's tomb, having absolutely no idea who this person Rumi was. And I see some glimmer in the eyes of some of you. You can imagine what it would be like to be at the tomb of this amazing human being whose poetry probably is unparalleled in terms of how much he was able to create in his lifetime, 27,500 poems. I'll never get there in my lifetime. So it was here that I started to receive information to write this book. And this story, Damascena, is the story of an orphan girl who ends up receiving a transmission to turn roses into rose oil, and she's mistaken as a saint for performing miracles. She wants nothing to do with this gift. And she's sent on a mission to meet Rumi. And in this relationship that she has with Rumi, he initiates her into this dance, into the whirling dervish dance. And the whirling dervishes, I don't know if anyone here has actually seen them. They come to the Bay Area quite frequently, I think once a year at least. And this is a dance that is all about turning inward. So it's a dance that goes on for at least an hour with these dancers that are literally turning in circles. So the idea of a dervish, if you're wondering what is a dervish, I'm sure we've all felt like dervishes at some point, spinning and spinning. And in terms of what the technology of this dance, the dervish is actually one that is standing on the threshold. That's the actual translation of a dervish. And that threshold is meant to be the threshold of change and deep transformation. So this dance is an opportunity for these people to turn inward toward something. And that something that they're turning toward is the heart. And when we talk about, on an everyday basis, we hear this in our languaging. We've been aware of, ever since we've been a kid, listen to your heart. What is it that we're listening to in our hearts when people ask that question? Who's doing the listening, right? So I'm going to unpack that a little bit here. And I'm also going to read you one little excerpt so you can actually see in your mind what this dance is. This is the first time this girl has actually experienced witnessing the dance, and it's very odd to her to see someone turning around in a circle. And the person that's turning in the circle is Shams. And Shams is, at this point in this book, a very, very old man. And Shams of Tabriz was Rumi's most lauded spiritual companion and probably the inspiration for the majority of those 27,500 poems. And so this is what it looks like. She's watching him from this little house. She moved to the front window, seeing the flicker of a small flame burning in the fireplace and the hooded shadow of Shams twirling about the floor with his head tilted up. Her first instinct was to giggle. She did not know the old man could dance. He had complained about his feet aching, but nothing about his movements suggested pain. Shams wore an odd cone-shaped hat that looked like an upside-down flower pot. He moved in circles, arms outstretched, mouth slightly open as he drew in breath after breath, chanting words that Damascena had never heard and could not understand, a confluence of accents and vowels and rhythms that sounded much like a waterfall. She liked the cleansing, calming effect, even if she had no idea what the man was saying between the thunder and the rain. And this is an actual poem from Rumi. There is no salvation for the soul but to fall in love. It has to creep and crawl among the lovers first. Shams repeated the verses over and over, faster and faster, gaining speed in his twirling. His left foot was clenched with a nail wedged between his big toe and the one after that, which seemed to keep him in place while he spun in a circle. He reminded Damascena of a little spinning top, and she was surprised he did not topple over or collapse from dizziness. Watching him spin soothed her in a way she had not felt in a long time. So one of the things that you're hearing in this little passage is this idea that it's a deep intake of breath. So this dance is coming from that place. It's a turning inward toward the self, and it's a turning inward. And the irony is it's a turning and a turning and a turning to actually experience stillness. So when we talk about this breath, and we're getting to technology of the heart here, everything starts with the breath, right? It's about an intake of breath. And when I talk about this technology of the heart, it's actually all about something that you all are aware of, and this is about coherence. It's about heart coherence, and it's not a cognitive coherence. This is literally about a coherent heart rhythm. And there's an institute here in the Bay Area called the Institute of Heart Math. And it was started by Doc Childra and Roland McCratty several years ago. And they've actually done research now about how heart rhythms affect our ability to think. And when you attain a particular level of coherent heart rhythms, and the higher the amplitude, the better it is. The more focus you have, the less stress you have, and the more aligned you are. So when I saw this, I thought, this is what this dance is. These Sufis, right, were completely dialed in to this technology without calling it technology. It was something rooted in an ancient practice that the body was aware of that it needed to do to actually come into the stillness. So being a wordsmith, I can't help but look at this word and look at it's a 9-letter word. And the wild thing about 9 is that this dance is supposed to represent the turning of the universe and the cosmos as we are turning with it every day. And so there's 9 letters in coherence, and there's 9 dancers that actually do the dance. When you actually see the whirling dervishes dance in a group, it's only 9 dancers. So they're there to represent that turning of the universe. And if you actually break the word apart, there's a word her and here and ko. And to me, this is a dialogue between the heart and the brain. It's a dialogue between, in terms of the physiology of it, the intake of breath and the listening for the inspiration and intuition. So clearly, if there's an opportunity for you to increase your heart coherence, and you literally can tap into this in terms of getting hooked up to an EKG, then they can actually know if you have coherent heart rhythms. I'll show you a little bit in the talk later what it looks like to have incoherent heart rate or heart waves. So this whole idea in terms of turning and grounding into yourself in order to listen, when it gets back to listen to your heart, what is it that we're actually listening to? So these Sufis clearly were pretty sophisticated in understanding what this particular dance could do and how transformative it could be for people. And this is what Ronald McCratty in his research, he's given me permission today to use his research. But clearly, here's the coherence, right? And it's the collaborative experience, right? Between this energetic alignment and cooperation between the heart, mind, body, and spirit. It's pretty phenomenal in terms of what these people could achieve just by doing a dance. But how do you do the dance without doing the dance? So William Blake, at the time that this was actually starting to be recognized, that the heart was more than just an organ, this was in the late 19th century. And William Blake, he was talking about this in this quote here, and he's saying, man's perceptions are not bounded by organs of perception, the brain. He perceives far more than sense, though ever so acute, can discover. And I'm going to substitute the word discover to detect, right? So when William Blake is talking about this, I think that what he's actually talking about, what's outside of the brain, is this inspiration. Where does the inspiration come from, right? Where does actual innovation come from? The brain is certainly a part of it. But is there a dance between these things of inspiration and intuition that actually create the innovation? And you of all people probably know that more than most, right? Dr. McCratty has been able to show us through his research that there's actually an incredible heart intelligence, and that the heart is actually an incredible sophisticated information encoding and processing center, otherwise known as a heart brain. So the idea, again, listen to your heart, right? What's happening there? Where are we getting this information, right? What I love about his research, and this always blows me away, is that the heart, what they've discovered is the heart actually it generates the largest electromagnetic field in the whole human body. And its waves, the amplitude of its waves are 60 times greater than that of the brain. And the entire magnetic component of it is 5,000 times greater than that of the brain. Is that pretty unbelievable, right? So where we've dismissed the brain or the heart as just an organ that's pumping blood through us, there's something else that's happening, right? The story of this girl, this little girl, Damascena, who's an orphan, she is raised by a tyrannical monk in this monastery. And from the beginning, her mother is sending her love, telling her that she loves her, trying to get through and communicate. But this tyrannical monk will not let the communication be relayed. And he completely thwarts any attempt the mother has to meet up with the girl. So the girl grows up sensing her mom. How is that happening, right? How is it that we can be across the world from someone and think about them, right? And maybe not thinking from here, but thinking from a lower place, dropping into our heart. How many of you have had this experience where you actually drop into the heart, you think about someone, and they email you the next day, or they leave you a text message, or they call, right? What's happening? What's happening in that moment, right? How is that information being transmitted? So this is an incredible space that you have an opportunity to tap into, even here in a work situation. The best thing about this is that when you're engaged with this technology of the heart and you're actually coming into coherent heart rate waves, so you're basically, raising that amplitude of the heart waves, you're actually creating more energy for yourself on any given moment. And I don't know about you, but given all the things we have to do every day in our lives, I definitely want to increase my energy. I want to decrease my stress. So if that means that I need to understand how to come into coherent heart waves, heart rhythms, bring it on. Although I don't know if I need to dance in a circle to do it. So I'm gonna read one other short excerpt of Damascena coming into this balance in her body through the dance, through this technology of the heart, of the Sufis turning and turning. Night after night, she spun, and her whole body pulsed with an energy she had never known. She felt uplifted, as if she were not just remaining in a fixed place, but traveling with each turn. She saw flashes of pearly light, odd, colorful forms she could not identify, rainbow prisms, shards of moonlight. She felt Deniz, this dervish who's teaching her. He's her contemporary, and there's a little bit of a spark between them, watching her closely in the dark. He kept the rhythm each night by whispering who's so much that she started to call him Al, Baikush. He acted hurt, but his teeth lit up the room when he smiled. I'm no more an owl than you are a rose trying to will yourself to bloom, he teased. But speed will not deliver you from what's holding you back. And what is that, she asked, meeting his eyes in the light coming in through the window. It was the second full moon since they had begun her training. And by the way, girls are not supposed to be doing this dance at all. Totally forbidden. Deniz paused, sensing her challenge, then walked closer and leaned into her, smelling the sweat on her neck. Fear, he said. Of what? Love, he said and swallowed. What do you know of love, she asked, and studied his throat. It is yours to claim. Do you know why we open our vest with our right hand after the last turn of this dance? Why? To let the world into our heart. She leaned away from him, uncertain she had the strength to do that when she had not yet let her mother dwell there. She caught his eye before she began to spin again. So one of the things that she's coming into in this process, right, and this is an unfolding, this is a journey for her. The dance is just a metaphor for her to actually open up her heart and claim what's always been around her, right? So I love this picture because it really is the way that we should probably start shifting our thinking around the heart and the brain, and literally giving the heart a little bit higher valuation than the brain. And you'll see in just a moment how that actually is now being quantified. But we have the opportunity. Dr. Dominique Sorel actually studies intuitive intelligence, and she wrote a paper. She's actually worked with the Heart Math Institute, and I love what she says about this. It's giving us this incredible access to untapped potential. And being people here that work at Google, I think you're all about getting into and tapping into that untapped potential, right? This is like the incubator of untapped potential, right? I mean, this is the place that the world is literally looking at Google as an innovator in terms of untapped potential. What can be, right? No limitations. So as far as I know, there's been no limitations. A driverless car, right? So I don't know about you, but I would love to have greater balance and self-directed control. And if it meant that it was all a matter of my heart, actually, more than my brain, I want to start. So the idea behind this, there's a couple techniques, and I'm going to share just one very, very simple one, a tool with you today. We all know about this, energy flows where intention goes. And one of the things in terms of getting a heart coherence and raising those heart waves is not just about thinking about it. This whole dance and the whole point of the dance is literally, the dance is about losing your mind. And the Sufi dance is called Sema, and it actually translates in Persian into listening. So the dance itself means listening. So when we say listen to your heart, this was a dance that actually allowed people to listen to their heart. And deeper than that, what is it that we're listening for, right? Are we actually listening for words? Or are we listening for lack of a better word, a feeling, right? Are we listening for something that we actually tangibly can feel? So the idea in terms of how do we actually engage this, and what's one of the most basic, simple tools of technology of the heart? It's not about thinking our way, it's dropping our mind and coming into a deep place inside ourselves. This is one opportunity to do it. Appreciation is one of those methods we all have heard about it, right? We're a lot of you here have been studying breath work, and you have the Search Inside Yourself program at Google. This is a really progressive audience in terms of what you already are understanding about the interplay between the physiology of the body, the alignment of the mind and the spirit and the body. But when you actually look at appreciation, and again, I can't help but look at the word in terms of, there's an app in there, right? And why do we not have any apps that actually help us to engage our hearts? We have so many apps that are about engaging our minds, right? And if there's so much untapped potential in our hearts, and its magnetic field is 5,000 times greater than that of the brain, there's your next project, right? How can we tap into this? So I'm going to invite you right now to experience something. It'll be a little experiment. So you can either keep your eyes closed or open, and I want you to just take a deep breath, all right? Let it all go. I need to do that myself. And take one more deep breath, and let it go out of your mouth, wherever you need to let it go. And I want you to think of a person in your life right now who you have a deep gratitude for and a deep appreciation for something they're teaching you, something they're showing you, something they're giving you, or just who they are and how they show up in the world. Maybe it's someone here at work. And I want you to bring a viewing screen in front of you, and I want you to see their faces, their face. And if you can, look right into their eyes. And I want you to direct a communication, not from your head, but to direct it literally from your heart, from the center of your chest. Send them a message of deep appreciation or gratitude. And see them smiling back at you. And take one more deep breath and let it go. And just ground that image and that experience. And when you're ready, you can open up your eyes. Did you feel even just this most subtle shift in your own state? I could feel it in the room, right? It's an amazing slowing down. It's an incredible slowing down and a quietude inside, and that took probably 30 seconds. I didn't time it. It's so basic, right? This is an amazing consciously directed communication from your heart. And the experience of that, when you're in someone's field, literally, right? That can just shift things right here, even in a work environment. And I'm always curious why it hasn't been valued. People aren't talking about bringing the heart into communications in the business world yet, right? But now all you have seen some evidence, not a whole lot here, but some evidence that this heartfelt communication is the source of a whole lot of information that can only actually contribute to your well-being. So I wanted to show you what it looks like when your brain, the opposite of what you just did, right? What you just did, you got into feeling these very, very positive emotions, right? You actually felt it. You can't think appreciation. You can't think gratitude, right? You all know when people are being insincere, when they're trying to express a gratitude and it doesn't feel, you're not feeling it, right? It's not literally heartfelt, right? We say that. It's heartfelt. That's where that authenticity, and when it's coming from that place and it's a true heartfelt experience, everyone benefits from it. Everyone in your field benefits from it. So this is how the heart activity actually affects our ability to think, and vice versa. So you can look at it as this two-way dialogue, again, that's always going on between the brain and the heart. So anytime you're feeling stressed, look at this incredibly incoherent heart rate, those heart waves, right? So any feelings that are not actually bringing you grounding or alignment are going to throw off that heart coherence. And as a result, it's actually going to affect your ability to think. You're not going to be focused, right? You're going to be more stressed out. But when you go into that place and for 30 seconds, you completely shifted your thinking. You slowed down and you got to experience something coming from here versus always up here. And it's amazing and powerful. And I'm curious who it is that you brought into that viewing screen. Just kind of check in on your text messages later on today. You'll have to let me know, or your emails. So this is the brain engaged in just normal thought patterns, right? And when we're just kind of not really having a moment of directed, of conscious communication, whether it's our heart or our heads, this is what the brain looks like. But when you actually go into appreciation, and this is that basic, simple, and the Heart Math Institute teaches these techniques, look what happens to the brain. There's a 15% increase in the activity of the brain. So why? And that's what just happened. You just got smarter by doing some appreciation, right? Things turned on inside your brain because you took 30 seconds to appreciate. Pretty wild. So why would we not bring this into the workplace? Think of how much you could get done and how much more efficient you could be on a day-to-day basis with your team, boss, whoever it is that you're working with, when you could actually engage in this way and feel safe about it because it was valued. So Dr. Sorrell, when I found this picture, I couldn't believe it because it was so perfect in terms of what she's actually talking about, that the heart is so much more than just an organ pumping blood, right? She basically is saying that the heart and cardiovascular system are sending far more signals to the brain, or to the heart, or to the brain than the brain is sending to the heart. And if you look at this, another way to look at it is if there's a scale, here's the brain, or here's the brain up here, and here's the heart. So the heart is the heavyweight, right? 60 times higher amplitude than brain waves and 5,000 times the magnetic field. And we talked about this just a couple seconds ago in terms of the actual benefits of heart-centered appreciation. So it's very much the same as coherence. Clearly, it's going to be beneficial to everyone to engage in this without dancing in a circle. So Roland McCratty was talking about when people are engaged in this deep conversation, and to me, this turning inward, the dance itself of the dervishes is about getting into a deep conversation with yourself, right? Closing down all the channels of chatter and listening to that thing. And that thing, right, is this encoding and processing center called the heart brain is giving you so much information. And how many times has your heart been wrong? It might have been crushed a couple times, right? I know mine has. But how many times has my heart ever been wrong? Never, once. So Malcolm Gladwell in Blink, was talking about this, that hit right away, that intuition. So the intuition is all being informed. It's a communication between the heart and the brain, right? And so when we have those first instincts, when you have that instinct about someone you hired or someone you're about to date or whatever it is, have they ever been wrong? But the voice is so subtle, we just don't pay attention to it, right? And I don't think that voice will ever get louder. You know why? Because it's a mechanism for us to clear out the chatter and the volume of our everyday lives and actually go into a place of quietude to listen. And there's many ways to do it. The dervishes did it by twirling in a circle for an hour or so. What's your way? What's your technology of the heart to get there to listen so that you can start start really accessing that amazing information that's coming, that's actually only and always going to benefit your well-being. You can never go wrong. That's the thing. Our heads, we can definitely go wrong, as we all know, you know? What this can do in the workplace, this subtle dance that you're getting into, is a very generative and collaborative experience with people versus a competitive one, right? The competitive discourse. How does it actually feel to be in a competitive discourse? You actually feel, and you know the saying, right? Someone's brought you down or someone's bringing you up. If you think about that down and up, the heart waves, when someone's bringing you up, you've actually come into a place of higher heart coherence. When someone's bringing you down, you're going into an erratic, incoherent heart rhythm. So all of these phrases of language and speech are always telling us exactly what we already probably know. So how untrained are you and your team? And what one action can you take today on this first day of fall that you can direct from your heart, a thought that you can direct from your heart that could even make this most subtle shift? Maybe someone's been irritating you and you have a moment where you come into an appreciation with them. It's 30 seconds, it's private, it's silent, and just see what happens. Curious. So one of the things I want to point out in terms of these Sufis and what they were doing with this dance and what they were already dialed into and how this relates to the Heart Math Institute's research. If you see the dance, you will always notice that the left hand is pointed down and the right hand is always pointing up, right? So for the Sufis, they're always reaching out for something. And one of the things that the Heart Math Institute has discovered is when they've done the research in their labs, they actually found that when people's right hands were engaged, and they were actually, so in our culture, you shake with the right hand. I don't know any culture you shake with the left hand. I'm not sure if there is. We always shake with the right hand, and the right hand is directly related to the heart. So what they found is that when the right hand was engaged and it was held, the heart coherence was actually affected, and those waves were actually raised when the right hand was held. So here you have these Sufis, and what are they doing? They're reaching out. For the Sufis, they're reaching out to the divine, to God, whatever you want to call it. For us, for William Blake, what was he reaching out to? Probably when he was talking about that sense and perception beyond the brain, he was talking about inspiration and wisdom, right? And what are we, in 2014, what are we reaching out for? What are we holding with our right hand or grasping for in our right hand? Probably innovation. At least here, specifically, innovation. We're reaching out toward innovation. Innovation has the highest valuation right now, right? In terms of what you can create, an experience you can have. It's an innovated, inspired experience. And whenever you hear that word, you're just like, sign me up, right? People want to be inspired, and inspire literally means to breathe in. So all of this is just one big metaphor for the turning inward and getting quiet to listen to the heart. And when Rumi, there were many quotes that I could have chosen today, but this one spoke to me personally because I'm not sure about you, but there's many times in my life where I've basically built a huge wall against the very thing that I wanted, which is love, right? So how many times in our own lives do we do this? Especially in the workplace. Because it hasn't been made safe yet to talk about, let's talk about the love. And bring in the love, right? You have a friend or colleague who's miserable in what they're doing. How can we shift that? What can we give you to do that you're going to love? Steve Jobs, reaching to innovation, right? Maybe with his right hand, both hands, who knows? All feet, whole body in it. He said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. There's a woman I know that lives up in Oregon, and she does a lot of Vedic astrology, and she sends out a very inspired monthly newsletter. And this was just, I want to quote where the source of all of this information. And she basically asked this question: what's standing in the way of expressing your true heart with wild abandon? I don't know if you can do it with wild abandon here at Google or anywhere else, but I think it's a good question to start asking. What's standing in the way of us as a group, as a team, expressing our heart with this project or with this client? So I'm going to read you the very last tiny excerpt here, where hopefully this isn't a spoiler with what I'm going to read. It's only 2 pages, but I want to show you how this girl, Damascena, comes into full alignment with her heart. And as a result, it's literally transformed her on a physiological basis. So this is the first time she's actually been permitted to dance. So all along she'd been trying to do this. It's been forbidden, and now she's finally invited into the lodge to dance. With her head lowered, Damascena humbly entered the circle as the 9th dancer, completing the celestial formation, bowing to the dervishes and the Dede. They bowed to her and to each other, honoring each other's souls. Then after removing their black capes, which represented the ego, and receiving the senior dervish's blessing and attentive gaze, they spun off one by one, counterclockwise on their left foot, unclasping their hands and extending the right up toward God and the spirit, and the left toward the ground in the direction of the earth, of the material world and mankind. Rumi and Hassam sat to the left of the orbiting dancers with their heads bowed, long conical hats tilted toward the circle in deference to Damascena, who moved like a star among stars, a heavenly body beyond form. They had never seen anything like the transformation within this girl, who had arrived burned and unable to walk, but danced now with grace and streaming through her whole body as if she had tapped into the source of surrender itself. She wore a calm smile, beaming joy from every particle of her being. When the other senior dervishes had stopped after 1 full hour of spinning, the girl continued to turn. She did not stumble or fall down, but floated across the floor of the great hall, transporting not only herself, but also everyone who watched her. The look on her face suggested she was lost to another world. She had let go completely. She had allowed the dance to dissolve her body. She had become one with the unseen. For the first time, the dance had become a form of prayer, and inside it, she felt free, unburdened by the limitations of form. She had left her body and looked down on herself, turning, arms outstretched, chin lifted ever so slightly, eyes fixed on the air and nothing else, while the ney and the drum played on. She had lost the ability to know where her body started and where it ended, or where the universe, the outside universe, began. And here she met Shams, who danced with her and did not complain of hurting feet. The dervishes felt ashamed for doubting her simply because she had no formal training. No one could deny her grace and endurance, but they felt anxious and jealous considering how long it had taken them to learn how to dance for 10 minutes without pausing, not to mention more than an hour. There had been no one in Konya known to dance for more than 60 minutes except Shams. No wonder so many dervishes had come to fear him as much as they wanted to emulate him. Rumi wanted to get up and join the girl, but remained transfixed, tears streaming, feeling a peace he had not felt in years. It was as if Damascena's dancing was helping to heal the parts of his heart that had been frayed by Sham's leaving. I could die now, he thought, and be at peace. But more words came. The girl's dance had triggered a new source of poetry. It was not the time to leave the earth yet. Damascena danced for 3 hours straight. At the end of her last turn, she faced Rumi and opened her vest with her right hand, as Denise had instructed, to let the world into her heart. Ivan met her at the door when she finished and walked her back to the garden, where she collapsed and fell into a deep sleep. He watched over her, hearing the chatter of dervishes who had come to pray over the girl, hoping the dance had not killed her. Ivan wanted to assure them that Damascena was alive, perhaps more alive than ever. So with this understanding that the brain is so much more than the heart, I have to share with you something that literally came to me in the mail yesterday. I don't know how many people receive or write handwritten letters anymore. This is from a reader that I just met last month in Pennsylvania, and her daughter had received a heart transplant. And I cannot tell you, I got this yesterday and I burst into tears. I couldn't believe it, and I said, I have to share this. They say the heart is just a muscle. You and I know from life, with an underline on know and life, that it is that and so much more. I see this with my daughter's incredible gift of a heart. Saying goodbye to her birth heart and welcoming her new heart has been filled with gratitude and just about every other emotion known to man. So how will you step into this place in your heart to experience an enlivening in yourself here, in the workplace, beyond? So on this first day of fall, I'm going to ask you how you're going to lead with your heart. And I want you to interact with me. So send me a message and let me know how it goes. I'm so curious. It's all very subtle. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Holly. So we'll open it up to questions or comments, if anyone has any in the audience.
So Holly, I'm curious what got you to Turkey, the Konya, Turkey.
I was there to do research for the Virgin's Knot, which I was researching the rug industry, and I happened to live with a rug merchant and his family. And his brother, or actually his cousin, said, "Do you know Rumi?" I said, "No, should I?" And he laughed. Now I know why he laughed. "You silly American girl," he said. And every taxi cab driver could quote from Rumi, and I thought, I need to know. And when he took me to the tomb, it was literally electrifying. And I had no idea who he was. And when I came back, that started the whole process. And I started to read Coleman Barks, just a really simple translation. It's an extraordinary book. But in terms of what the West has access to, it's a dust mote. Think about 27,000 poems, right? We only have a tiny little bit. And it's not in Persian. I wish I could read and speak Persian, because just to hear the musicality of the poetry would be great.
Yeah, how do you envision connecting technology with the heart?
You mean how could technology actually connect us to our hearts?
Yes, that's a better question.
I think there's many ways that we can start engaging with the heart. I actually know of a woman here in San Francisco that has actually created a probe that you can wear, and you can go home and download it. I'm a cyclist, so I know there's a app for something called Strava, and you actually can, you know how much mileage you've done. It's geocoded, so they know where you are. That's good and bad. Sometimes you just want to get out on the road and have no one know where you are. But in terms of understanding where your heart coherence, you can actually get feedback. And there's a lot of games out. The Heart Rate, or the Heart Math Institute, has a lot of different ways to engage people. I actually worked with someone who knows Dr. McCratty, and he had me sit down with a video game. And it literally was, if you had coherent heart rhythms, you could actually go around the world in this balloon, this hot air balloon. And so being very aware of my breath, and then you'd get timed for how long you were able to stay in a coherent heart rhythm. So you basically travel all over the world. I think I got down into the Grand Canyon, and my balloon was cruising around the Grand Canyon. But there's ways that they're engaging this through videos. I was just at a launch of a new program here in San Francisco called ARC, and it's the fusion of technology and health and medicine. And there was a researcher from UCSF, and he literally has created something where you can step inside the brain. And they've talked about how they're using video games to help kids who have attention deficit disorder, depression, so forth. And the video game itself is actually helping to change the physiology of the body, and it's actually creating healing. We also know the detrimental effects of that kind of media as well. So it's a great question to ask. And so being here and speaking, I wanted to ask the question so everyone else is starting to ask the question too, right? Because there is an app, right? There should be an app for this thing. If there's so much information here, let's tap into it, Let's tap into the power of that imagination and intuition and bring it all together,
I've had straight up debates with close friends of mine on whether to listen to your head or to your heart. And I have my own answer, but I just wanted to leave that open-ended and hear what you had to say about that, or what you would tell someone that's struggling on which one to listen to or which one it is in general.
Well, it's a great question. I think we all struggle with it. I don't think there's one person, unless you're at that level of consciousness, which I certainly am not. I don't know if I'll ever achieve that in this lifetime, but I'm certainly humbled by the endeavor, right? And I think that the brain plays an extraordinary role. I mean, without the brain, there is a two-way communication going on here. But I think we, in this culture especially, we are so overdeveloped in this part of our brain, in that frontal lobe. It is so overdeveloped, where you literally feel like it's like you're burning up, And as a writer, I can feel that, because I always go forward, when this is my writing line. And when I go back, when I actually shift my where I am inside myself, I know that sounds crazy, but when I come from a place that's not from my head, I literally am dropping down. So this idea of leaning forward, I don't want to get into a huge debate, but to me it's about, let's lean back, lean back, get quiet. If that person has the courage to listen, a lot of times the reason we don't want to listen to the heart is because it's going to give us information that's pretty much going to require something that all of you here, you might be programmers, in the world of tech, you understand the word pivot, right? Pretty much it's going to be an invitation to pivot, right? For another word, it just means it's an invitation, an opportunity to change something, right? Anytime you have a kernel of the truth, clearly something is not true and it's not aligned, right? So, but that truth is usually going to require us to do something that's not going to be so comfortable, right? And that's why, by my own personal belief, is why we don't engage the heart as much. Because it's going to require a little change. It's going to require a little sobering up, to the fact, where am I out of alignment with myself? If you think your way through it, pretty much 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, you're not always going to have the best information coming. You can use your brain to sort it out afterward, but it's more of, why do I know that this relationship is actually causing my disease, right? Why do I know that? There's no evidence. I can't go to a doctor and say, I'm feeling this way because of this relationship. Your body knows, we know this kind of stuff. The brain is it's like in the writing process, I have to write from the bottom up. I always encourage people when I work with them, when a story comes, really check out where it comes from, and where does it sit in your body? And write from this place up, not from this place down. I love to engage my brain when I have to do editing and really looking at story design. But to know that the foundation's there, the heart to me gives rise to the foundation for everything. I mean, Steve Jobs said it best, right? The heart will always lead you. It'll know. And this is a guy that, we look at as one of the smartest, most literally brilliant people that lived during our time. And what's that source of the brilliance? To me, it's like, wow. I would love to have seen Steve Jobs' magnetic field in terms of just his love for technology, his love to develop something that had never been done before. So it'll always be a debate, right? It'll always be a debate, because that's where the fear is, right? And the question was asked to Damascena, you're spinning so fast and spinning so fast. The minds are the whirling dervishes, right? But the heart helps to slow you down. Or you can slow down the heart to actually allow the communication to serve you, right? If you're willing to be aligned with the truth. That's the bigger question. You can say, what are you afraid of, to your friend?
I had a question about heart math.
Yeah.
I don't know them well, but are they, you may not know it either, but are they working with companies, or is it more just research-based? It sounds so interesting that they're just
that's a great
dedicated
question,
to find that.
and I can put you in touch with Dr. McCratty. I do know that I know that they do teach this. So they teach something called a freeze frame technique, and the appreciation one it was kind of a really diluted version, but I wanted to just show you how simple it could be, just based on, you don't even have to. We don't have to brand it. It's just like, let's actually feel an appreciation, right? And just experience physiologically what that does. And what that did actually in the room is it actually magnified that heart field. All of us, our heart field, right, was totally trained, right? So if you can do that on your team, right, all those little rocks line up. it's not about loving everything all the time. It's about creating harmonious outcomes, right? Harmonious outcomes might require the brain to think through some things and strategize, but if you have that discourse from a place of the heart versus a competitive place, right, you're literally going to have, the chances are, everyone engaged in that communication in that moment is having higher heart rhythm coherence, right? Versus like someone bringing you down. And we want to run from those folks, right?
Do you have a favorite Rumi poem?
Do I have a favorite Rumi poem? Yes, and please don't put me on the spot to quote it, but I can paraphrase it, and it's The Guest House. I think many people know it, and for me, just in terms of my own recent personal life, I've had many things showing up and requiring change and requiring really a deep listening and getting honest with me with what's aligned and what's not aligned. And so The Guest House, in a nutshell, sorry, Rumi, forgive me if I butcher this, but I'm going to paraphrase it in the best way I can, is basically, there's going to be a lot of people and things that are going to show up in your life. And he says, welcome them all, for they may be clearing you out for some new delight. So I don't know about you, but I'm in a place in my life where I'm psyched to have some new delights. I think the world is excited to have some new delights. And Google as a company, you're in a really great position. You're all in a position of power and leadership, regardless of what your role is here in the company, because everyone's looking to you, for this innovation. And your mission is to organize the world's information, right? So to organize the world's information and make it accessible and useful, is that it? So the last thing I'll say is, how do you organize the information of your heart and make it accessible and useful? And welcome all those that come, right?
Well, thanks, and it's been a delight. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for having me.